The slave markets of Xeranthus Prime were a spectacle of cruelty dressed in elegance. Marble arches, floating lanterns, orchestral alien music, yet behind it all were cages, collars, and desperate eyes. Civilizations from across the stars attended the auctions, each searching for expendable labor, fighters, servants, or pets. And this cycle, this machine, had run for thousands of years. Among the cages stood Elara Myles, a human torn from the expedition ship Arcadia after an ambush in the Nebula Fringe. To the galaxy, humans were exotic, unpredictable, and rare. That made them valuable but not respected. Elara's wrists were clamped in quantum restraints. She had been silent for days, not because she was broken, but because she was planning. She watched the guards, counted routines, traced the layout, and memorized every symbol on the control consoles. She didn't have power here, but she had her mind. And she had something the galaxy underestimated. Humans adapt. The auction began with the usual spectacle, creatures of every size and species displayed like trophies. When the announcer finally presented Elara, the crowd rippled with excitement. Lot number 77, human female. Physically intact. Martial training confirmed. Cognitive processing, above average. Bidding begins at. A new voice cut through the noise, cold and commanding. 5 million talos. The crowd hushed. From the balcony, surrounded by armored guards, stood Lady Serinya Voss, a highborn Xeranthan aristocrat. Her eyes were pale silver, her posture rigid, her reputation infamous. She owned nearly 30,000 slaves. No one challenged her bid. Elara was shackled and transported by hovercraft to the Voss Dominion, a palace of dark glass and bioforged steel. She was placed in a private chamber, not a cell but not freedom either. Rich clothes, food, and medical bots tended to her. The comfort was intentional, manipulative. That night, Lady Serinya entered. "You are different from the others," she said without introduction. "Humans don't break easily. I need someone who won't." Elara didn't answer. "You will serve me," Serinya continued, "but not as a pet. You will be my shield, my blade, my constant presence." Elara resisted the urge to spit in her face. "And if I refuse?" Serinya smiled softly. "Then I will rip your memories apart until you forget you ever had a choice." There it was, the real monster behind the elegance. But Elara noticed something else, subtle and unexpected. Serinya's smile trembled, not with amusement, but with pain. Her voice cracked on the last word. She looked less like a tyrant and more like a prisoner, wearing a crown of obedience. Still, that didn't matter. Elara would escape. Over the next weeks, Elara was trained, evaluated, and shadowed Serinya everywhere. Meetings, galas, political ceremonies. Always armed, always alert. She learned the palace routes, guard patterns, supply points, and most importantly, network access locations. Serinya seemed to trust her completely. One night, after an assassination attempt in which Elara saved Serinya's life, they were alone in the high tower. "Why do you stay?" Elara finally asked. "You're feared by the galaxy. You have everything. Why bury yourself in this cage of slaves and guards?" Serinya didn't answer immediately. She walked to the window, looking down at her empire. "My bloodline is bound by the Dominion Protocol," she whispered at last. "I do not rule. I follow. Every command I issue is one I've been programmed to fulfill since birth. My power is a prison." Elara froze. "You're owned in every way that matters." Something shifted then, not forgiveness, not friendship, but understanding. Serinya wasn't free any more than the people beneath her. And that was when Elara made her decision. Freedom was no longer just for her. It would be for everyone. crossed swords middle, the spark of revolution. Elara began planning, weaving information from every corner of the Dominion. She learned that the protocol controlling Serinya was embedded in a neuroregency implant, a device linked to the core government AI that issued instructions no Voss heir could refuse. Destroying that implant meant two things. Serinya would be free. The Dominion would collapse. Serinya would die for that freedom. Elara would kill thousands if she miscalculated. The plan required precision and trust, more than either woman was comfortable offering. The night before the attempt, Elara stood on the balcony with Serinya. "You're not afraid of dying," Elara said quietly. "Why?" Serenya's voice was barely a whisper. "Because for one moment, I want a choice." Elara turned away so Serinya wouldn't see her expression. Humans should not feel sympathy for slavers. But Elara wasn't helping a tyrant. She was helping someone who was molded into one. At dawn, the revolution began. The power grid crashed. Docking shields fell. Prison wings were unlocked by remote access. Elite guards turned on each other as virus-laced commands infiltrated their neural links. The palace erupted in chaos. Amid the storm, Elara dragged Serinya into the protocol chamber, a cathedral-like room housing the crown jewel of Zaranthan control, the Dominion core AI. Serinya hesitated, fear for the first time visible. "If you destroy the implant, the AI will kill you. It will kill everyone you freed." Elara stepped closer. "Not if I rewrite the order sequence." "That's impossible. It is for everyone except humans." Serinya blinked. "Why?" Elara smiled grimly. "Because we're unpredictable. And every AI in this galaxy hates that." She plunged her stolen access key into the main console and began typing. Alarms screamed. Drones burst from the ceiling. Serinya jumped in front of Elara, taking a plasma bolt meant to kill her. "Elara," she gasped, falling to her knees, "finish it." Elara's hands shook as she rewrote the final instruction. "No being has the right to own another. Terminate all neural protocols. Free all enslaved species." She slammed her palm onto the final input. The Dominion core screamed, an electronic wail as millions of control bonds shattered across the galaxy. Serinya collapsed as her implant burned out. The palace fell silent. For the first time in her life, she was free. Sunrise ending, freedom has a cost. The aftermath was brutal. Nobles fled. Fleets collapsed. Systems once ruled under fear turned on their former masters. Civilizations long enslaved rose up in fury, vengeance, and justice. And in the center of it all, where everything had begun, stood Elara and Serinya. Elara helped Serinya from the rubble of the protocol chamber. Energy from the blast had scarred her neck, and her voice was hoarse. "If I stay," Serinya whispered, "they'll kill me. Millions will want revenge." "You earned that risk," Elara replied coldly. "You caused suffering." Serinya nodded slowly. "Then why save me?" Elara looked at her, tired, angry, grieving, and yet honest. "Because freedom shouldn't begin with another execution." A small, broken smile crept across Serenya's face. "What becomes of us now?" Elara answered with the same certainty she had the day she was taken. "We choose." Together they boarded a stolen transport. There was no destination, only possibility. As the engines lit the sky, the slave empire they left behind continued to crumble. Across the galaxy, chains dissolved. Beings breathed free for the first time in centuries. History would remember many things. The fall of the Voss Dominion, the screams of the aristocracy, the uprising of millions. But above all, the galaxy would remember the spark. A single human refused to stay captive, and freed the one who once held her in chains. Not for power, not for glory, but because she believed in something the universe had forgotten. No one is born to be owned. And so began the Age of Liberation.